Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of What Does It Mean to Be Human? I thought this week I would address sort of plant medicine as a whole in general. Got into a bit of an online debate this week about someone commenting on the fact that they're toxic substances, so hallucinations that you have when taking them is part of your brain dying, and it's way to grasp reality. That's just utter lies. It's just not even close to true. And pointing that out didn't seem to make any difference to changing that person's opinion because they'd already made up their mind. So I just thought I'd give a little bit of a background about what plant medicines are, my experience with, and sort of clear up this kind of concept that it's a toxin. It's for everybody, because I don't think it is. And yeah, just an honest, open discussion about how I see it and where I think it fits. I've had people comment to me in the past because I use them personally. People think, oh, well, you're going to be a big proponent of saying people should take them. And I'm actually kind of the opposite. I've seen a lot. I've been in plant medicine world now for about 15 odd years. I've had plants unconsciously before that, but diving properly into learning, understanding, knowing, having it completely natural. I haven't touched synthetic substances in 20 years. So I'm not interested in the slightest bit about drugs. I'm interested about plants that grow on the earth. If it makes tea or is be able to use straight off the earth as is, that's about my limit. Not because plants can't be toxic. Absolutely they can. It's more, to me, I think the recovery time is a bit better. I think there is, beyond the alkaloids that you're looking for that get you high as such, the plant is a whole being, and there's all these probably underlying vitamins, minerals, who knows what, that are in the mixture of an entire plant that acts as a keeping you safe, I suppose, is my way of thinking about it. And this is just my opinion. If that doesn't resonate with you, totally cool. There's no judgment of the people that take synthetic substances or want to go the other way. It's just not for me. And I've always felt that was, too messy, and I didn't really like it. So yeah, I kind of think there is a lot of things to take into account. And what I really want to do and create in the future is, I'm not really interested in creating plant medicine retreats, because I've seen too many people walk away with damage and sort of being not held or supported in their experience or understanding it or being able to integrate it properly in reality. And I think this is a huge part of why it's not for everyone, and you really need to do your own research, check in with who you're doing it with, what energy are they coming from, why do they want to do it. I've definitely been in circles where it was definitely more about the drug experience and less about consciousness experience. And that just doesn't interest me. Again, whatever people want to do is up to them. It's not about me. I'm always about evolution and what does my soul need to grow. And these kinds of experience can put you so far out of your comfort zone or reach you into areas that you can't get to without either serious discipline or at all. It can be, I want to say a fast track, but it can be an insight to why you're doing the work, why you want to do it naturally without any substances. And I'm very big on that too. I mean, I've lived in an ashram. I've spent years in meditation, not all at once, but spent time doing meditation and up to many hours a day living with a enlightened master, all kinds of things like that. And I think I've got a fairly balanced perspective on what it takes. And I did get to those kinds of places where I was hallucinating and being able to open up my own channels for visionary experiences. And this is the thing, our bodies produce DMT, and this is why it's not a toxin. It's why it's not your brain dying or any kind of silly notion like that. A lot of the foods that you eat, plants and animals, pretty much mostly, again, slightly debated, but a lot of plants and animals produce their own endogenous DMT, so it's produced within the body. I find that kind of fascinating that if a lot of us produce it, seems to be the symbiotic molecule that holds reality together. Because, I mean, why would you, we produce 3 kinds of hallucinogens. Why would you all collectively choose to hallucinate to some degree? And there's definitely ideas that a lot of spiritual experiences are because of self-regulated DMT. Heard of sort of enlightened masters and gurus and things like that being able to open gates that flood the body with DMT. Also schizophrenics and things like that are known to overproduce, so they can't turn that valve off within their body, which is kind of interesting. I think that the visions that they see and things like that are because of this natural occurring chemical in your body and in the environment and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely not toxic, but is it right for everybody? No. I think it takes a real deep knowledge of self. I don't think it's a very beginner's path. I find it really good at giving me an overview or letting me step outside myself to see what I can't see, to show me what it is that I'm ignoring about myself. Because it's too hard or because I'm just not there yet or whatever it is. It gives me a sort of blown out perspective, being able to see things from like a bird's eye view. And I find that really useful in informing the next part of my journey. I've seen a lot of people who think taking plants is the journey, and it's not. I think it informs the journey. So therefore, I'm not the first to say everybody should do it. It's a great thing because I think if you don't have a certain level of self-actualization or discipline in being able to handle yourself, it can do damage, and all kinds of other things like what kind of medications are you taking? Is there any kind of pre-existing conditions that may affect it? So family stuff with schizophrenia or things like that, bipolar, all kinds of factors that can start a cascade of other issues, because a lot of people that you hear, people going insane and never coming back from trips, it's more, is it triggering an underlying issue that was there anyway and you've just accelerated its onset? Seems to be part of it. This is down to cannabis too, not just psychedelics, but a lot of that is. And yeah, I find that that's, you know, a big contributing factor. I think the ease of access in the world today, obviously this would have been localized to certain regions of the world where these plants natively grow, and a lot of indigenous human drive often is to seek altered states. So I think throughout history, we've been known to seek different kinds of alterations for what would usually be called a spiritual experience. So blurring the line between this reality and the next. And I think they're really good at doing that. But as I say before, I think they can inform you how to get there naturally, because you can spend years in meditation, and unless you get kind of the real experience or the insight of the bigger picture of why, it can be kind of hard to keep going. Maybe you just get the calm and the easier to integrate life, daily life in general. But I feel that sometimes seeing the bigger picture is really useful in that. But again, if there are pre-existing conditions, and the thing is with plants, once you take it, you're in for the ride. You don't get a choice and, oh, where do I want to go? I want to set my intention. You do it in plants as well, but like in a breathwork session, setting an intention will get you close to kind of the thing that you're wanting to have a look at. You can set an intention in plant medicine, but it could be the most abstract, weird way around to get to that place that doesn't make sense in the moment, but may 6 months later. And I see a lot of the kind of, if people have a bad trip, it's probably more because they're resisting what's being shown to them, because we all have ugly parts of ourselves that we don't want to admit to, that we probably prefer to ignore. And that's okay. Again, once you're ready to go somewhere, you will, if that's your choice for part of your journey. But having no control and having to 100% sitting with what is, I think is a super valuable, while super uncomfortable at times too, experience that. If you have a certain level of consciousness and self development that allows you to sit even in your uncomfort and discomfort and feel all those bits about yourself that you're really not happy with, it can go there. And so whatever you resist persists, and it ain't going to let you. And the more you fight it, the more that you don't float downstream with the river, and you try and swim against the current, the more you're going to have a hard time. And that's where I've seen a lot of people probably not come out well on the other side. And this point of, the ease of access tends people to think, oh, well, it's fine for everybody. And it's not, because I don't think there's enough education out there about what all these things are. I think a lot of people are administering it in their own unconscious. Maybe they mean well. I'm not saying that they're influenced by other spirits, although that can happen, or they have ill intent towards any individual. That's not what I mean. It's more that they haven't actually done the work. And like a lot of the spiritual industry I see these days, talking about it in breath work too, seeing people do a weekend workshop and all of a sudden facilitators. This is years of work to deepen self so that you're able to hold anybody else's stuff. It's not that you can't, but you'll only service people up to your level of consciousness. And if you happen to create opening experience for someone else that's greater than your understanding, you can do them damage, in fact, and not just in plants, but again in breath work as well, or other practices that I'm aware of. Opening too quick without the support has its own pitfalls, and I highly don't recommend it. I've certainly probably done it to myself a few times, and that's why I said I'm also trying to save people from some of the bad experiences that I've had in life, trying too much to use my ego to override my soul's progression and what I really need in any moment. Is just like my mind racing ahead of where I'm actually at. And so the ease of access to plants can make it seem like it's open to anybody. And like in history, we've always had like secret societies and things like that, that these wisdoms were kept, esoteric teachings that were kept separate from the general populace, because most people are just not really ready, and stumbling in the dark into areas without support and guidance can be super dangerous. And again, this is not about plants. This is just high magic stuff of you don't want to mess in realms that you haven't got the ability to navigate. Hell, most of us are just trying to navigate this reality first, you know. So yeah, there's definitely issues in this place of thinking that just because you can access it, it's a good thing. Because again, 100 years ago, let alone 1,000 years ago, you wouldn't have even had the option. You would have had a lot, whatever was local to your area and what grew around your place, and that may or may not have included these things. So I think it's really important to take all of these things into account: who you're doing it with, what kind of environment you're doing it with. I'm even getting less interested in doing group stuff unless they're a group I'm working with on every other level as well, because I want to create containers where people get to know each other, do the work emotionally, mentally, physically, before they even come to things like plant medicine. So that there's a familiarity that you can drop deep, because I've certainly felt in a lot of experiences I've had, because I didn't feel safe, it meant I couldn't let go. Could be my issue, could be all kinds of other story I have. Okay, that's fine. But I also know me, and if that's how I feel, that's how I feel. You know, there's times you can stretch outside your comfort zone to learn, or there's times to go, hey, no, that's a boundary and I'm just not that interested. So, and that can be a confusing line, because it can be a fine line. And it's not usually until you stepped over the line one way or the other do you go, I wish I had done it another way. So I think it's really important to take into account the place, the environment, you know, the idea of doing it on a Saturday night and then going to work on a Sunday, or Monday even, in reality. It is not how it's kind of ever been done. These kinds of things are probably the highest magics that I kind of know of, and ways of personal development. And so I think they should be used less often, more consciously, and with greater respect, you know. And ayahuasca, for instance, feels like I'm kind of prefacing that behind a lot of this, because that's one that I've spend a lot of time with, but seen probably the most mess in that field as well. I've called out a lot of that mess before as well. It's largely getting extinct throughout the Amazon, and I've spent a little bit of time there. And so there's issues with that, over harvesting, because same with peyote, cactus, that has the same sort of issue. Unconscious people just overtaking because of their own personal agenda, and that's not always consciousness. That's all maybe about whatever's going on for them. So yeah, that's kind of a bit of a quick, broad, and there's probably more I'll go into on this, about the different kinds. I just mentioned ayahuasca, which I think I probably I thought of that one the most, because also it's the one that uses DMT. Maybe I'll go into the process of how that works. But DMT is often called the spirit molecule. And it's an interesting compound, I have to say. Very, like, these are true hallucinations, as opposed to something like LSD that maybe blur lines, not for everybody all the time, depends on dosage, all that kind of stuff. Blur lines of reality. So maybe you make pictures like looking at clouds and seeing a cat or whatever. this can kind of morph things that are there into what you're seeing. Whereas something like DMT, ayahuasca is creating things that are beyond your possibility of even knowing. And this is sort of where it gets fascinating as well. The information that has been channeled by people on these kinds of compounds as well, it gets super interesting. It's outside of, I just vaguely heard or I read a post and it's slightly lodged in my subconscious. Now these are like deep understandings of physics and all kinds of things like that. So I find that kind of stuff quite fascinating. Mushrooms, which are another one that I personally work with. I don't work with ayahuasca for clients anymore, but mushrooms I do. I find them much easier to be able to regulate dosage. So you're able to get that sweet spot of where someone's at, how to help them. Has a DMT molecule in it for ACO DMT, which is just one molecule off, just means it's orally active and it can just be eaten straight as is. And so, yeah, in super high doses can get to ayahuasca realms, but it is much easier to sort of regulate with people. And then cactus is probably the other main plant, certainly that I work with, but that I put in that realm. There is also toad, like 5-ACO DMT, 5-MeO DMT, sorry, which I don't have any experience with, so I'm not going to even talk about that because it's not drawing me. And a lot of people do say that it's like, oh, when the medicine's right for you, it'll come into your field. So again, this can be a bit hit and miss as opposed to availability and all that kind of stuff, because 100 years ago, that wouldn't have even been a choice. So yeah, I don't know if that just kind of conveniently hits what the story we want to tell ourselves, but yeah, anyway. And cactus is another one. It's very interesting, strange trip. I might describe some of that at another time, but has the component mescaline in it, which is definitely, it's not, keep forgetting whether it's traditionally in the psychedelic realm. It's not as visionary, can be visionary, very different kinds of visions. But yeah, it's another one that I work with a fair bit. And these are sort of, I might start to wrap it up there, but these are some of the things that need to be taken into consideration when wanting to start this journey. And I'm not persuading or dissuading anybody from it. I think you need to do your research, figure out what's right for you, but listen to all sides of the story, because certainly this person was saying, and I agree with, it can have side effects, it can have detrimental effects, but their bias was also heavily weighing in on that comment, and other things that were put in the comments section clearly said this person wasn't capable of handling themselves under any kind of situation, not any kind of situation, but many kinds of situations that were outside their comfort zone. And so there's no point making up stuff to prove your point, because that's just your ego. So I'm not interested in that, but I am interested in an open discussion about plants, the benefits, good things and bad things to take care of yourself within. And yeah, let's create a discussion about this, because I'd rather bring awareness to the subject, because it can be beautiful, it can be extremely eye-opening and healing. I've had some major healing experiences because of it, and I think a lot of it was like the biggest parts of me opening my heart and connecting that way, which meditation and things. And when I was meditating, I was clean as, so that's not what I'm talking about. It's when I was meditating, I was having experiences that were other, but yeah, that's just kind of what I want to wrap up with for now, and start this discussion on what plant medicines mean to me. Welcome them into the discussion, and I hope some of that information helps. And if you want to know more, put a comment down, because it'll help me kind of spark off what the next conversation will look like. And if you feel there's value in it, please share and like and all the good stuff. And I will speak to you another time. Thanks.